Hi and welcome or welcome back to The Books Are Everywhere. It is early November and I've been thinking about what I want to do with my reading in November. I know it's been a while since I've done TBR mini golf, and at this point I am kind of waiting for next year to properly give it a restart, because I do have some loose ideas that I need to nail down to make it bigger and better than it ever was before, and I would like to kind of start TBR mini golf with those ideas rather than go back into the format that it used to take. It will still be mini golf, I would just like to make it a bit bigger and better. So at the moment I don't really want to dive back into doing TBR mini golf, but it will come in January, I promise. I will start it again soon. And honestly, I'm just enjoying the idea of mood reading at the moment. I don't really do mood reading a lot. I do tend to set a TBR of some kind, whether it be a readathon or if I do mini golf or something else. So I just thought, why don't I take November and December to do mood reading? So this isn't a TBR. This is, well, it kind of is. It's an idea of what I might like to read based on how I'm feeling at the moment. So some of them I definitely will be reading, and some of them I'm just putting here as an idea of what I might like to read in the next month or two. I don't know how I'm going to feel about December yet, so I'm not committing to all of these books or even any of these books. I'm just going to put some ideas out there in the universe and talk about a few of the books I would maybe like to read at some point soon. As you can see, I am wearing my hoodie. It is cold. It's a cozy evening, so I thought this could be a nice cozy mood reading TBR. And in no particular order, I'm going to kind of dive straight in with, I've just picked a selection of books off my shelves that I would like to get to this November, and I don't want to wait another year to read, because they're books that I would quite like to read in autumn, and I don't necessarily want to have to wait until next September and October to read. So I've just pulled them off my shelves in the hopes of getting to them in the next month. So the first one we have, I'm definitely going to be reading, and that is The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. This is the sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is a series by Juno Dawson. It's an adult fantasy series. The first book follows these 4 witches who are part of this coven, and it kind of follows them and their lives. It's actually more kind of grounded in real life than I expected it to be, and it's kind of quite cozy actually. I expected these to be more fantasy related rather than set in the real world, but I really enjoyed that they are set in the real world, and it's kind of following these 4 friends as a young extraordinary witch comes into their midst, and this kind of sparks some controversy amongst the friends and has some really interesting themes in the book that I didn't really expect to come up. So me and Alex buddy read the first book, and this is the second one. We're going to start it tomorrow, so I'm going to dive straight into this one at the start of the month, and I'm sure I'll really enjoy it. I really enjoyed the first book, so I'm looking forward to this one, and this is one that I'm definitely putting on the TBR. The next one, I know Alex has said she wants to get to a few sequels in the month of November, so I'm probably also going to be buddy reading Flashfire with her by TJ Klune. This is the second book in the Extraordinary series, which is following Nick, who is a superhero fan. He's a fan of these superheroes, which are called the Extraordinaries in this world, and it's basically set in a world where they walk amongst normal people and he writes fan fiction about them, and he has a chance to meet the person he writes a fan fiction about, and he also sets out to become an extraordinary himself. This is following on from the first book, and me and Alex read the first book in the past few months, so I think we're probably going to try and read this one. I did enjoy the first one, but in comparison to TJ Klune's other works, it's not as for me as The House in the Cerulean Sea is, for example, but I did enjoy it enough, so I will be continuing with this series with Alex at some point. And then we're diving into the maybes, although I mean, I don't know if we'll read this in November, so all of this really we'll see. But the first one I am pretty intent on reading in the next month is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Megan Shepherd. This is a novelisation of the Tim Burton Disney film The Nightmare Before Christmas, so I don't really feel like I need to say anything about this. It's obviously following Jack Skellington, who is the Pumpkin King in Halloween Town, and he ends up visiting this like Christmas town and bringing it back to Halloween Town. It's a novelisation of the movie, so I am looking forward to seeing what this does with the movie and seeing if I get anything extra from the story by reading it rather than watching it. I also have A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. You will probably notice that there is a few witchy books in here. As I said, these are some of the books that I just don't really want to wait another year to get round to, and I feel like I need to read them soon or it's going to be Christmas and I'm not going to be in the mood to read them at the start of the year. This one has been blurbed by Ali Hazelwood as well. It sounds like it's a cosy witchy fantasy following a witch who enjoys baking and baking bread rather than brewing potions, but a spell goes really wrong and she ends up staring down a demon and she's inadvertently summoned it for a soul bargain. And basically this Ozroth, I think is how you pronounce this demon's name, is a legend and is trying to get Marielle to sign over her soul, and they also sound like they're roommates. Not quite sure what's going on, but I love this cover, it's so pretty, and it would have been perfect for October, but there's too many books and not enough time. I also have this little one, which is Little Women by Laura Wood, and this is a retelling of the original Little Women. It's a dyslexia friendly book. It's by Barrington Stoke, who are a dyslexia friendly publisher. They actually sent me this one a while ago when this one came out, and I love Little Women. Little Women is a children's classic following four sisters who are Jo, Meg, Beth and Amy. Their father is away at war and they are just at home with their mom. It's very cozy. I love this story so much. I rewatched the 2019 film adaptation recently, which I absolutely love, and I really love the book as well, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Laura Wood brings to this story. I really liked her, I think it was a Pride and Prejudice retelling that she did for Barrington Stoke. Yeah, I really enjoyed that retelling, so I have a feeling I'm going to love this one as well. The next one is The Manor House Governess by C.A. Castle, and I've heard this one is like a Jane Eyre retelling, loosely I think. It's following Bronte Ellis, who has lived all of his life at this all-boys school. He was a student there and then he went on to be a teacher there, and he gets the opportunity to move to Cambridge to live at Greenwood Manor and be the new live-in tutor there, and he finds himself very welcomed by all apart from the eldest son, which is Darcy, and there is also something bubbling beneath the surface as there is with Jane Eyre as well. I thought this one would be perfect for this season. I love Jane Eyre too, and I think that this is, well, it sounds like it's a male-male romance, so it sounded like it's very cozy, and the publisher also sent me this one, so thank you to them for sending this one my way. I am looking forward to reading this and hopefully I will actually manage to read it fairly soon. The next one on this list is Leela and the Blue Fox by Kira Maud Hargrave with her husband Tom de Freston. This is another book in this, it's not a series but it's very similar to Julia and the Shark by the same married couple, and I read that book when it came out, I want to say 2 years ago now, which is insane, and I loved it. And this is very similar. This is an animal companion children's story following, going to say, Leela and a fox, and they're both journeying through the Arctic summer and their adventures intertwine, I believe. There isn't that much information on the back of this book, but it's also illustrated by the author's husband, and the same way as Julia and the Shark, this is just absolutely beautiful. Like, this book is just, I just know that this is going to be such an experience when I do finally read it, and I think this one came out last Christmas, like end of last year sometime, and I just know that I'm just going to love it. I loved Julia and the Shark so much. I find these absolutely beautiful, and it's lovely that these two work together. I'm just looking through some of the illustrations because I've never actually looked at this book before inside, but it's just kind of multimedia and just absolutely stunning. So yeah, I'm hoping to get around to this one soon, this winter at least. Then there is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. This one was also sent to me by the publisher, so thank you to Penguin, and I believe that this one is an autumnal romance. It's a friends to lovers romance, and I think I've maybe heard it likened to You've Got Mail or something similar to that because of that it's like related to the time of year. Not 100% sure, but it's following Ari and Josh, who have a run-in at the house of the woman they're both sleeping with, and then they don't see each other for a long time, and then they bump into each other years later and become friends, and platonic friends, and then the boundary of that friendship begins to blur, and they realise maybe it's not platonic, I guess. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I haven't had it for that long, so it's come out fairly recently, but I feel like it's going to be really good. Just noticed it says on the front there is a blurb by Ali Hazelwood again, and it says it's a modern reimagining of When Harry Met Sally, so maybe I'm just mixing my movies up there, but still I am looking forward to reading this one, maybe soon. The next one is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I had this one on pre-order and it came out a few months ago now, and I've heard that it's like dark. I think it's kind of fairy related. Honestly, the synopsis sounds like it's a mixture of several things. It's following Effie, who has always believed in fairy tales, and she has found solace in the pages of this one book, Angharad? Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this one book, she's gone to prestigious architecture college and she's finding solace in this book, which is an epic tale about a mortal girl who falls in love with a fairy king and then destroys him. So she's reading this book, and then there's a competition to redesign the late author's house. So she goes there, but finds she's not the only one there and ends up in this weird like rivalry with another student who is also trying to redesign this house, I presume. This is the Waterstones edition. It's so pretty. I just knew I had to have this edition, so I pre-ordered it because it sounds really interesting. This is the Under the Dust jacket. I don't know if I'm going to get to this one. I don't know if I'm going to get to any of these, but I don't know where this sits on my priority for this season, but I do feel like it would be perfect for like a cozy wintry autumnal night, so maybe I will, maybe I won't. On a similar vein, the next one I have is a proof of If I Have to Be Haunted by Miranda Sun, and one of the main reasons this is on my TBR is because I should be meeting the author at Yalk next week. So I nearly said next month and then realised it's less than a week away. So I'm definitely not going to get to it before Yalk, but I am feeling like it might actually make me want to read this book, looking at it and meeting the author. So we'll see. This one came out in September. I had a proof from the publisher. I think it's published under Harper. It is, so thank you to HarperCollins for sending me this one. And it's following our main character, Cara, who is at school and she's just trying to get on top of her classes and her extracurriculars, prepare for college, and not use her ability to speak to the dead. But then she stumbles across a body of Zach, who is a super popular but newly dead high school golden boy. And guess what? He wants her to resurrect him. Cue trouble. Feels like it's going to be entertaining and ghosty, which is why it would be great for this time of year. I didn't expect that synopsis from this cover. I really like the cover though, it's very pretty, and I am looking forward to meeting the author. We then have A Taste of Darkness, which is a horror anthology, I think. It's 13 chilling stories to savour, and it's edited by Amy McCall and M.A. Cosnea, Maria Cosnea, and is also including a lot of other authors, and it's 13 nightmare-inducing stories from the queens of YA suspense, and I really want to get to this one soon. This was also sent to me by the publisher, so thank you to Scholastic. And as you may know, I often do sprints and live shows with Amy McCall, who is one of the co-authors and editors, I believe, of this one. So I obviously really want to read it very soon, and it would be perfect to get to this one hopefully shortly. The next one is 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. I've had this one for quite a while now. I believe Rosie is or was a Waterstones bookseller, and I've heard really good things about this one. It's apparently a Heartstopper with ghosts. It's set in York, and it's following a 16-year-old boy called Charlie Frith, who realises that one of his friends has been taken by ghosts. So he teams up with this new seer in town who is Sam, and a ragtag group of spirits to unearth the chilling purpose behind the disappearances. But then he develops romantic feelings for Sam. He will have to risk his life and his heart if he's going to save the afterlife. And it says it's a spookily swoony YA debut from BookTok star Mara Child. So I think that's she was very popular. I do follow her on Instagram as well. And I've heard really good things about this one, and apparently it's Heartstopper with ghosts, so what's not to love? The next one is another witchy one, and it's Wild is the Witch by Rachel Griffin, who is the same author of The Nature of Witches, which I really enjoyed. I read the audiobook of that one and I really enjoyed it, so I have been thinking about possibly picking up the audiobook for this one if I can find it. This is, I think, her newest release. It's not been out that long, and it's another enemies to lovers contemporary fantasy standalone, very similar to The Nature of Witches. And this one is following Iris, who is hiding that she's a witch and vents her frustrations by writing curses that she never intends to cast. She works at this wildlife refuge with her mother, and she also works with this ornithologist who interns with them, is witch-hating. It's called Pike Elder. And apparently in her frustration with this intern, she writes a curse, and obviously it is stolen by an owl. Sure. And it's then taken by this owl and flown far away from the refuge. And it's a powerful amplifier, so if the owl dies, Iris's dark spell will be unleashed, but also everyone else in the region. So obviously she has to work with Pike to search through the wilderness for this owl, because it could cost Pike his life. But Pike doesn't know the truth, and as more dangers arise in the woods, Iris must decide how far she's willing to go to keep her secret safe. This sounds wild, very original, must say. And I did pre-order, or I did pick up a copy of this because of the hidden cover, which is so pretty, and my copy of The Nature of Witches has a similar design, so I wanted this one to match, so I have the hardback, and it would be a good time of year to pick this one up. I have also been thinking recently about picking up the Dark Shade of Magic graphic novels, the Shades of Magic graphic novels by V. Schwab. This is a box set of them, and I just feel like I'm in the mood for graphic novels at the moment. I would quite like to do a maybe weekend readathon where I just try and read a lot, and I feel like these would be perfect, and I did buy them last Christmas and still haven't read them. This is following Maxim, who must learn what it takes to be the future king and earn the title of the Steel Prince. He's put in charge of a garrison of men and is forced to defend his father's kingdom from the threat of the Pirate Queen and the rebel army, and he must also survive the trial of the Knight of Knives, a magical annual tournament that no one has ever survived. So I think this is set in the same world as the Dark Shade of Magic. It's apparently a prequel to the novel and to the series. So yeah, I have wanted to read this one obviously for quite a while. I also feel like it could make me more in the mood for Fragile Threads of Power. Not that I imagine I'll read that book soon because it's very chunky, and I think it's the start of another trilogy or another series. But I would like to get to these, and if I do happen to do a mini readathon, I think it would be perfect to dive into those. And talking of graphic novels, I feel like I would also like to reread the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels by Kate O'Neill. I don't reread a lot, and I don't reread, well, I don't really reread at all, but I feel like I do enjoy rereading graphic novels if I'm going to read any, and they're just easy and quick obviously to read, and this series is just so beautiful. It's following our main character who is living with relatives, I believe. Let me have a look and remind myself. It's following Greta, who is an adventurous blacksmith apprentice and becomes entwined with the enchanting world of the tea dragons. I think she's taught to look after them, if I remember rightly. It's just such a cute, wholesome story. I feel like I could have a cozy night in and just blast through all of 3 of these graphic novels. I did say at one point I would probably like to reread these every autumn because they're just so lovely and just comforting and like a warm hug, so maybe I will at some point. Who knows? Okay, I think that's all of the books, the many books that I would possibly like to get to in November, not counting some of the ones I would maybe like to get to in December. But we will see. I already feel like I'm more in the mood for Christmas than Halloween and like spooky books, so I'm really trying to like force myself to stay in that like spooky Halloween mood so I can hopefully read some witchy books and still feel like they're relevant. So I'm hoping that this video will motivate me a bit more to pick those up and continue reading some witchy books, but we will see. But let me know in the comments if you have loved any of these books, and maybe that will give me the motivation to pick some of them up. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you.